If you and this girl were thrown into a wilderness, full of dangers, with no food or water, not even close to survive for 21 days, would you dare to take the challenge? If you succeed, you will receive $100,000, equivalent to 2.5 billion Vietnamese dongs. If you fail, you'll be carried out on a stretcher. First, the female lead, Afton, 27 years old, a full-time mother. All her primitive survival skills were taught by her grandfather, a man of Native American descent. He always encouraged and guided her to blend with nature, instead of fighting it, to overcome the challenge. Next is the male lead, Jack, one of 4 wilderness survival trainers. His reason for becoming a trainer is quite unusual. Simply because he stumbled upon a survival show on the Discovery Channel and became passionate about the subject. After a few months of self-learning and creating many skills at home, he started taking on students. This time, they were taken to an unnamed wilderness in Wyoming, a place far from civilization with the longest venomous snakes being in the Western Hemisphere. Region. This area is also a symbol of sweltering heat, still a dangerous hunting ground. If a human is targeted by these creatures, there's no chance of survival. An old off-road vehicle brought the two to the location and conveniently took their clothes away. After that, the two met in the wilderness. Upon meeting, Jack said, "My height must be nearly double yours, right?" Afton shyly responded, "We're not the couple with the cutest height difference, are we?" The two brought survival tools. This time, it's still a lighter, a small knife, and a pot. They studied the map, determined the direction, and set off immediately. Walking under the scorching sun for an hour, Jack couldn't take it anymore. He dug up dirt and smeared it on himself. After another hour, they reached a small riverbank. As Jack was preparing to set up camp, he noticed showing signs of heat stroke. He quickly went back to start a fire, then hurriedly fetched dirty water from the river and boiled it. But after drinking the water, Afton began climbing a tree and vomiting. Things got worse when night fell. Wailing sounds from afar made them so scared they didn't dare breathe heavily. The next day, after a sleepless night, tormented by unknown things, both of their spirits were very low. Not understanding what was happening, they decided to go out and explore. But after walking a bit, Afton, exhausted from heat stroke, sat down and cried loudly. Jack, helpless, could only sit silently and comfort her. On the third day, Jack looked at Afton, weak as a rag doll. Unable to hold on, Afton secretly wiped her tears. Things got worse as Afton got her period. After that, they ventured into the dense forest to find food. Luckily, Afton stumbled upon a turtle. With bloodshot eyes, Jack didn't hesitate to rush and catch the turtle. Next, he also caught a snake, brought it back to camp, roasted the snake, and ate it. Jack ate while saying, "If we had some cumin, it would taste much better." After eating, he continued to clean the turtle and cooked it in a pot, swallowed it whole. However, despite being full, Afton didn't seem very happy. Jack felt very disappointed in her, started missing his girlfriend, and expressed his loyalty in front of the camera. On the 5th day, Afton, who always had to carry water, combined with her period, her mood became even worse. In these wilderness survival challenges, after the 7th day, their condition worsened. Finally, Afton couldn't bear it anymore. After thinking it over, she decided to give up. Jack, who had predicted the outcome, didn't try to stop her, just gave her a hug and left the challenge area. After Afton gave up, though Jack also felt anxious about the future, he decided to continue the challenge. In the afternoon, he found a lot of ants in the burning fire and ate them raw. At night alone, he couldn't sleep. On the 11th day, starving to the point of near madness, he used the small knife to cut a long stick and started hunting. After going out early and returning late, he finally caught a lizard on a tree. Back at camp, he skewered it and roasted it over the fire. At night, he started talking nonsense due to loneliness. On the 15th day, after a long time of loneliness and lack of food, He gradually became delirious and started hallucinating. On the 19th day, his spirit collapsed. He couldn't stand up. The show's team had to rush in for emergency treatment. The doctor suggested he give up, but Jack stubbornly refused. Decided to continue. On the 20th day, Jack's physical and mental strength reached their limit. The show's team was even considering taking him out, but Jack adamantly refused to give up. He decided to split the journey into 2 days to leave the area. On the first day of the challenge, he needed to cross 7 kilometers of grasslands and rest overnight in a relatively safe place. The next day, he had to climb a hill to finally reach the destination. The road ahead was long and full of challenges, so he brought fire and clean water to set off. Along the way, he faced many difficulties, even spilling the water in the pot. Finally, he found a cave to rest overnight and keep the fire. On the last day, Jack dragged his exhausted body, staggering for over 4 hours, finally seeing the rescue truck waiting for him. Jack succeeded in the 21-day survival challenge. In 3 weeks, he could have collapsed at any moment. He lost 16 kilograms. James, a 28-year-old animal control worker. Since he was 10, he started hunting and fishing outdoors on his own. After growing up, he served in the military and became a technician in the Air Force. After being discharged, he didn't know what to do and even fell into depression. To rediscover the thrill of the past, he decided to take on the challenge. The next girl is Robin, 32 years old, a nurse. She was also a soldier and went through many survival training courses in the military. She participated in many outdoor survival challenges and believes her biggest weakness is being too dependent on the team, so she really wanted a companion who is an outstanding leader. This time, they were left on an island in the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, one of the harshest and most dangerous islands in the world. The dense forests on the island provide perfect shelter for predatory animals, the largest in the Western Hemisphere, like black panthers and mountain lions, especially during the rainy season. The area is frequently hit by storms, rivers full of methane, and the presence of 4 venomous snake species also create deadly dangers. The harsh environment clearly posed a great challenge for them. After a tourist boat brought the two to the location, they took off their clothes and covered their bodies. They met on the beach. Upon meeting, Robin said their matching outfits were perfect. Robin laughed and said she had even more fitting things. Survival tools James brought this time included a knife, a lighter, and a ration. Also, a camera that fans always criticized. According to the map, the two started crossing a diving area to another island. Then they passed through a low, romantic forest, climbed a high hill, surrounded by a foul-smelling swamp. Finally, they followed the hillside to the vast coastline on the other side. They set up camp there to survive for 21 days. Storms caused tree branches to fall haphazardly, making movement very difficult. After 3 hours of walking, they finally reached higher ground. Then, they continued for another hour to reach their destination. Then chose a flat area to start setting up camp. Not long after, James got distracted and noticed a coconut tree nearby. He hurriedly ran over and threw rocks, finally knocking down 2 coconuts. In the evening, the two started a fire and sat around it to relax. In the middle of the night, wailing sounds terrified the two. Cold sweat broke out. They looked around, but saw nothing. The next morning, the two were still in shock. Immediately got to work, busily. After finishing setting up camp on the hilltop, James said he was very thirsty and wanted water. Hearing this, Robin took the pot to find fresh water. After getting some foul-smelling, dirty water, she boiled it and they shared it. After rehydrating, Robin accidentally discovered they had set up camp under a poisonous tree. The tree's venom could cause skin ulcers if touched, or worse, paralyze someone completely. To ensure safety, they had to flee and rebuild. After a busy cleanup, James also got blisters from touching the poisonous tree. To ensure his health, a doctor quickly arrived and performed some simple treatments. Until sunset, their new camp was finally completed. On the third day, James and Robin suddenly came up with an interesting idea. Robin wanted James to make her a pair of underwear. However, James tried using coconut shells, but found them too small to fit properly. On the fourth day, the poisoning on James's body began to swell and get infected. The pain made him feel unbearable, and his mood plummeted quickly. He had no choice but to call the doctor. The doctor gave him an antibiotic injection. On the fifth day of the survival challenge, although James's poisoning showed no signs of improving, the biggest issue now was food. James went to the sea, flipping rocks to find food, while Robin was weaving and setting traps in the water. On the seventh day, James still suffered from pain and illness. His body was so exhausted, he began to feel nauseous and vomit. In the afternoon, unable to bear it anymore, he ran to the beach and cried uncontrollably. Realizing he had become a burden, James considered giving up. Robin, seeing this, rushed to comfort him, telling him not to be too weak. Then ran to the swamp to find medicine for James. After finding it, she boiled the medicine for him to drink. On the eighth day, James's health slightly improved. He decided to continue surviving. When Robin woke up, he proactively apologized to her and was forgiven. After that, they both went to the beach to check on fishing, but still found nothing. In the evening, as they prepared to play cards, they suddenly heard noises outside the camp. Another sleepless night. On the ninth day, the sky was overcast. Heavy rain poured down, and they had no shelter. They could only hide in a leaky camp and wait for the rain to stop. The rain continued relentlessly into the evening, making them freeze and unable to manage. The rain persisted until the 11th day. The firewood in the camp had run out, and there was no dry wood to start a fire due to the continuous rain. On the 13th day, the rain continued. Both were starving, but couldn't go out due to the cold. The damp air dropped to freezing levels. At this point, James, after regaining his spirit, fearing Robin would collapse, started working outside in the rain. Even more unfortunately, in the evening, strong winds blew their camp down on them. They struggled to escape and had to rebuild the camp. Throughout the night of the 14th day, the temperature dropped sharply, combined with the camp's collapse, finally broke their last line of defense. To save their lives, the doctor came to check their body temperatures and gave them a thermal blanket. After observing for a while, they decided to give up together. Finally, James and Robin's challenge ended after 14 days. The guy named Jack, 28 years old, a survival trainer. He also considers himself a martial arts expert, having learned online and from books. Friends have many comments about Jack. Some say Jack is cheerful, others call Jack an energetic guy, but his survival skills were truly taught by his father. Joining this program, Chad aims to carry on the tradition and successfully win the $100,000 prize.
33 years old, from Canada, and is Chad's companion in this challenge. She was discharged from the military last year, a prominent representative of the strong Gen X generation. In the upcoming challenges, she caused trouble for Chad more than once. What surprised Chad the most was that she had been to Afghanistan, and due to her achievements, she rose from lieutenant to platoon commander, but during that time she developed post-traumatic stress disorder, which strained her relationship with her boyfriend. So her purpose in joining the program was to experience life and then improve her relationship with her boyfriend. Alright, the program brought the two to a volcanic island in the Caribbean Sea, where seismic activity is very strong. This island is full of venomous scorpions, poisonous centipedes, and even toxic guava trees.
Used this place to punish pirates, but the most terrifying is still the giant volcano on the island. An eruption in the 90s made the volcano toxic and caused snow to accumulate into devastating mud flows. Horrific mudslides. The lava flow devastated nearby towns, forcing thousands to evacuate, leaving behind a scene of desolation with ruined remnants. Currently, this volcano is still highly active and could erupt at any moment. An old, dilapidated off-road truck not even China would buy as scrap brought the two to their separate locations and took their clothes away. After that, the two met on a pile of rubble. Upon meeting, Jack felt he couldn't control himself and kept apologizing. Molly said it was a natural reaction and hoped he wouldn't mind. Luckily, she didn't care too much. The survival tools they brought included a fire starting kit and a coil of rope, though Molly found Chad a bit odd. They should have brought a lighter, but she hadn't seen Chad's true abilities yet. After studying the map, the two decided to stay far away from this unreliable volcano. On the way, walking barefoot on stones as hot as coals made their movement very slow. They thought entering the forest would be easier, but the thorny bushes inside made them miserable. Their pace was extremely slow. The two kept going until it got dark, but still hadn't reached their destination. They had to pull some wild grass from the ground to spend the night. What happened at night doesn't need mentioning. Early the next morning, the two continued their journey. They kept going until noon. The scorching sun caused Chad to suffer heatstroke. Nausea and constant vomiting made Chad extremely uncomfortable. With no other choice, Jack had to use his family's internal healing techniques to treat himself. Though Molly stood nearby, looking at Jack with a puzzled expression. This method surprisingly worked. By the afternoon, they finally found a clear stream deep in the forest. The crystal clear stream water was mesmerizing. After drinking water, the two found a flat area near the stream and started building a shelter. While setting up the shelter, not only didn't help but kept pointing and criticizing, making Chad extremely annoyed. But luckily, Chad was quite agile and managed to finish a simple shelter before it got dark. However, the weather didn't cooperate. A sudden heavy rain hit in the evening, catching them off guard and leaving them soaked all night in the leaky shelter. From the side. On the third day, after waking up, Chad started working hurriedly, though Molly kept glaring and doubting Chad's abilities. In fact, Jack was used to this since he was 10. Starting a fire wasn't difficult. But contrary to expectations, despite his best efforts, Jack still couldn't start a fire. Seeing Molly growing increasingly annoyed with Jack, she still took the time to help Jack find some dry branches. And this time, Jack didn't disappoint her, successfully starting a big fire. On the 5th day of surviving in the wild, when hunger made them dizzy, the two picked some wild fruits from the ground, called and named kazibi mangoes. It said these fruits, though smelly, are edible. After roasting and tasting them, the flavor was indeed unpleasant, smelling worse than Chad's feet after 28 years. After eating their fill, the two returned to camp, started imagining how to spend the $100,000 prize money. The more they talked, the more excited they got. The two also took the chance to reinforce the camp, but their joy was short-lived. While Molly was excitedly admiring the camp, Jack encountered an unexpected accident. While descending from the mountain, Jack slipped and injured his shoulder. The doctor came to check and said that Jack had a broken bone or serious injury and needed immediate hospitalization. Jack was in so much pain he cried loudly and had no choice but to withdraw from the challenge. After Jack left, had to complete the remaining 16 days of the challenge alone. Though not confident, she remained determined to continue. On the 6th day, Molly was awakened by rumbling sounds from the distant volcano. Then she used an old piece of cloth left by Chad to sew a set of clothes, tried it on, and found it quite decent. That night, rain caused Molly severe insomnia. On the 7th day, her fire was extinguished by heavy rain. Despite trying multiple times, she couldn't restart it. She gave up and lay down in the camp. Continuous failures and loneliness began to make Molly's emotions extremely unstable. On the 8th day, to escape loneliness, forced herself to do something to avoid overthinking. She went to the river and caught some small lobsters, but without fire, she had to break their heads and eat them raw. Speaking of which, has anyone ever eaten this raw? It rained again at night. Loneliness and anxiety kept tormenting Molly. She even started hallucinating, always feeling someone was standing outside watching her. On the 9th day, unable to escape loneliness, after much mental struggle, Molly decided to give up. Finally, Chad and Molly's wilderness survival challenge only lasted until the 9th day. If you and this girl were placed in a wilderness environment, without food, water, or clothes, to survive for 21 days and complete the challenge, you would receive $100,000. If you don't succeed, you'll need medical rescue. Would you dare to take the challenge? The 38-year-old woman named Dami runs a quarry where she works alone. The grueling work has given her a strong physique like a man. At 23, she got lost on Lang Mountain, spending a night in the snow. Luckily, the rescue team arrived in time, or she would have frozen like a statue. However, that incident didn't diminish her faith in tough challenges. On the contrary, it made her even more determined. The guy with a diamond-like appearance named Tim, in his 20s, a former Marine, now firefighter and father of 2. He grew up in a single-parent family and joined this program to teach his kids how to be independent. For this challenge, he felt it was much easier than military training. Both were dropped on the volcanic island of Trinidad, in the Caribbean Sea, surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean. This is one of the islands hit by storms, year-round, with over half a year of continuous rain. In the dense forest, everywhere is full of thorns and volcanoes spewing gas bubbles. If you're not careful and fall into them, you won't survive. Not only that, there are wildcats with a strong territorial sense and billions of insects that can harm humans. They can attack directly like elephants. There are also millions of tiny ticks that burrow into the skin and suck blood if infected. After the 2 were transported to their separate locations by truck, they were stripped of all clothes and began their journey with only a thin layer covering them. After groping through the bushes, they finally met. Upon meeting, Dami asked Tim if he was a gym-goer. Tim also asked Dami if she was a bodybuilding enthusiast. The 2 brought rope and a small knife. After studying the map and determining the water source direction, they didn't rush off but applied clay to their bodies to ward off mosquitoes. While walking, Dami asked Tim why he didn't hold her hand. Tim replied that he didn't have that habit. After walking for a while, it started raining. They used rope to tie around their feet to avoid slipping, then used leaves to catch rainwater to drink. They continued walking in the rain, and soon after, were attacked by insects. Dami got bitten and screamed. They kept going until the afternoon and reached a small stream. Then, they chose a flat area and started building a camp. Because there were many ants, they decided to make a bed raised off the ground. However, Dami, fearing getting wet in the rain, thought they should first make a roof before worrying about the bed. Both worked and argued, and by evening, the camp was still unfinished. Without fire, countless ants from everywhere swarmed to attack, keeping them from sleeping all night. The next morning, Tim found his feet covered in bites. Meanwhile, Dami found a dry bird's nest. While collecting it and bringing it back, she tried to start a fire, but kept failing. In the afternoon, desperate for water, couldn't bear it and drank dirty water from a puddle. On the morning of the 3rd day, Tim woke up early and continued surviving on his own. Dami, seeing him so independent, was very annoyed, and they argued again. Finally, Tim threw down the survival tools and said he didn't want to continue. Dami immediately changed her attitude and joined him to start working again. They succeeded in starting a fire and drinking water. At night, Dami said she'd take care of the rest. On the 4th day, Tim was so exhausted, he just wanted to lie down, which made Dami very dissatisfied, and she criticized him on camera. On the sixth day of the outdoor survival challenge, Dami took thin strands of rope to make a fishing net. Meanwhile, Tim still lay there doing nothing. In the days that followed, remained busy while her strength was depleted. On the 10th day, could no longer tolerate Tim's indifferent attitude, and started confiding in him. However, Tim not only didn't listen but felt Dami was always controlling him. Finally, they argued and ended unhappily. 2 days later, Tim completely lay still, doing nothing. On the 13th day, Dami went alone to collect some palm fruits, and brought them back to camp to eat. Meanwhile, Tim not only lay still, but also demanded meat. Angrily said, if he wanted meat, he should go get it himself, and not expect her help. On the 16th day, with her strength depleted, Dami finally collapsed from exhaustion. At this point, Tim still stood there, continuously complaining why Dami didn't collect firewood. On the 18th day, Dami was completely bedridden. Tim realized life couldn't continue like this, and decided to go out to find food. He started by making a trap in the forest, to catch rats, to eat. Then, he dug up some larvae from old wood, brought them back to camp and shared them. Their relationship gradually became more harmonious. On the 19th day, after a heartfelt conversation, both apologized and understood each other, deciding to persevere until the end. On the 20th day, Tim checked his trap but found nothing. Dami waded into the river, and luckily caught a few small crabs. She brought them back to camp, cooked them, and ate with Tim. On the final day, both prepared to leave, but encountered heavy rain. With no other choice, they kept moving. The muddy path caused them to fall multiple times. Midway, they were attacked by insects. After risking their lives to push through, they walked until the afternoon, and finally reached the coast, where they saw the ship, a nuclear-powered tourist vessel waiting for them. The two completed the outdoor survival challenge. During 3 weeks of constant arguing, Tim lost 32 pounds, and Dami lost 16 pounds, ending this challenge. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.